ecstatic to bring up Claudia from Dstillery, chief scientist there and a friend in our LDV community here. She's on the speaking tour. But we're going to hear some wisdom. Take it away. Thank you very much for being here.
So when Evan invited me to come and talk at the vision event, I was kind of, look, I don't do vision. I mean, I don't even try to visualize my data, and data is what I actually do. But I thought about it, and there's some very interesting development that's going on in digital advertising in our company right now, and I wanted to share kind of the premise and maybe some of the promise of this work. And it all starts with what moves us. Because ultimately, you would argue that the whole point of advertising is to affect people, to touch them emotionally in some way, maybe bring them closer, or at least generate some interest in your product. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of images. And I'm asking you, what moves you? This is a pretty well-known campaign. I'm sure you have seen many of those before, maybe not all of them. Sorry, we missed the last one, but in any case. So I will not embarrass you and ask you to raise your hand which of those you felt most touched, affected, or whatever else by. But what I'm posing here, the chances are we all had very different reactions to these images. I'm not even going to tell you which one my favorite is, but I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit of a story that few people know about me. I grew up in East Germany, and that in particular means, and that's the irony of my life, until 15, I had never seen an ad. Because in East Germany, there was no such thing as advertising. There was nothing really to sell anyway, so why the hell would you want to advertise it? And when the wall came down, what I discovered was actually photography. It was beautiful images of things, of nature. And where I discovered it was in cheap magazines that had incredibly well printed and produced pictures. So the little dirty secret is I spent my time as a teenager collecting those. And it was truly because I was just incredibly amazed and touched by some of that photography. Not that I ever bought any of these things, but still. So images have the ability to connect to us, to touch us. And what I'm challenging the community with, and I think to some extent also is myself, do you think you're able to express why a given image had such an impression on you? I'm sure you can tell me which one it was and I will recognize it, but do you even know why? I mean, some are more obvious than others. But we are restricted in language when we try to explain things, when we annotate images, when we bucket them, we're saying this is a happy cat and this is a grumpy cat and this is I don't know what else it is. And ultimately, language is limiting in the ability of expressing our emotions. Some northern tribes have 17 different words for snow. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's only bad snow and there's remotely good snow if you want to go snowboarding. But it very much depends on the context if you even have the vocabulary to express what you want. And that's one of the challenges that I feel we face in machine learning when we try to characterize and categorize and annotate things. We're stuck with language. And in the process, a lot of the magic gets lost. Now, as I said, I work in advertising, so I want to show you some of the alternatives where we're trying to circumvent the effort of trying to characterize what it is about an image, what it even is or what it might be about it that touches you. Now, I don't actually have results for Equinox, so what I'm going to show you are results from a brand of some very healthy food, but it actually relates a little bit, and we'll get back to Equinox. And we run an experiment with them where we look at how images and messages affect people. And this is actually not a formal A/B test. This is using machine learning to model the impact instead of having to try all these different things, which gives us a lot of scale at then having to communicate and describe who responds how to what. So I will start initially looking at the impact of different images. So in this campaign, we had a number of different images, and I can unfortunately not show them to you, but I can describe them a little bit in terms of what they contain and what the results were. So what is this graph here? It's showing the impact of an ad as a factor for different groups of people. Not yet quite individuals, but we'll get there. But how does different images, and you see them described at the bottom as family-oriented, probably a picture with the family, individual, lifestyle, just showing the logo, some variety of the product, or just kind of the very close-up shot of the product itself. Well, the first thing you see that people who go to Chick-fil-A are really, really hard to sway to buy it. No matter what it is that you show them, they're kind of happy with where they are. Thank you very much. The other thing you see very clearly that across all of these different groups, and this is, by the way, data that we derive from mobile devices that we see in different locations that we then have tagged a certain way. In general, just showing the product was clearly the best strategy here across these different groups. But you also see a lot of variance that subgroups react very, very differently. And again, this is just a very high-level picture here along a couple of fast foods, which isn't really a natural fit for this product. But you see clear differentiation, and you can think about how would you use that information to schedule or to choose separate images for separate subpopulation if you wanted to actually specifically reach out to any of these groups. Now, the messages, turns out, had at least as much impact. I mean, I love the Equinox one of what made you do it, but here we had a number of different messages, some related more to the natural process of the production, others talked more about taking a snack at a certain time of the day. Some try to tell you that they're really healthy and good for you, so in terms of the benefit. And what you see here is now broken up by people who go to certain gyms. And you see kind of two different types of gyms, the LA Fitness and the YCMA. You have this kind of double spike. The populations are similar to each other in the way how they are affected by the message of the creative. In general, here you see that there's overarching emphasis on benefit. It's good for me. I mean, yes, people who go to the gym probably care about the benefit, and this is very consistent. But you also see, at least in the case of the YCMA and the LA Fitness, that the descriptive part of this is a great product, it will taste perfect, this is the kind of sensory stimulation that is not just limited to taste, but also includes kind of texture and how it will make you feel beyond taste, is quite effective. So I wanted to use this as an example to really push this forward as we move on. What's important here is I wasn't trying to characterize necessarily the images and map them, but I let a machine learning algorithm estimate how, from some experimental data, different types of people are affected by the message and the image. And if you think this forward, maybe in the future I actually don't need to ask you whether it was the guy carrying the little statue, but I might be able to predict which of those creatives will most likely speak to you, and I should show you in real time as I'm running my campaign. With no time to spare, I think I'm...
Round of applause. Thank you very much, Claudia. That was great.